Welcome back to Super Roblox. Today, this video will be on identity fraud and the meaning behind it all. This video will be on a theory that in identity fraud, your character is suffering from the mental disorder schizophrenia. The first piece of evidence can be found in the dialogue that you get right at the start of the game. Because the dialogue is very important, I'll have a video of the dialogue playing in the background for you to read. At first reading this, looking at the way our character speaks and also thinks, we can right away see that something's wrong, mentally wrong. But how can we connect this to schizophrenia? Well, first we have to know what schizophrenia is and what its symptoms are. Schizophrenia is characterized by thoughts or experiences that seem out of touch with reality, disorganized speech or behavior, and decreased participation in daily events. Seeing how our character suddenly jumps to the conclusion that the doctor wants to hurt him and that he also is poisoned kind of matches up that he seems to be out of touch with reality. Now this is just a broad description of schizophrenia. If we want to prove that our character has schizophrenia, we have to get more into the exact symptoms you can have from schizophrenia. I did research on schizophrenia, and some mood symptoms that caught my eye are anxiety, loss of interest or pleasure in activities, and inappropriate emotional response. Throughout the dialogue, we could see signs of anxiety from our character. He was saying people were staring at him. He was saying his doctor was going to hurt him. He said he needed to escape, and he even said he couldn't breathe, which could be a result from his anxiety. Loss of interest or pleasures in activities, he didn't really seem interested in anything. He was very silent for the time being in there. An inappropriate emotional response, I definitely think he got emotional in that conversation for no reason. He responded to the doctor's question of, "Are you okay?" and thought that he was going to hurt him. That is a big sign of inappropriate emotional response, and he got so worked up at the end that he started to not being able to breathe. And even with that, there are more signs that he has schizophrenia. Now let's move on to some physiological symptoms, and this is actually where it gets a little bit interesting. The possible symptom that caught my eye was persecutory delusion. Persecutory delusions are a set of delusional conditions in which the affected person believe they are being persecuted. Specifically, the individual thinks that harm is occurring or is going to occur. Wait a minute, isn't that what the dialogue really emphasized, was that the doctor was going to hurt him and that the doctor poisoned him and that the people were staring at him? It feels like he's scared that people are going to hurt him. And it really sounds like he has some persecutory delusions going on. Some other symptoms are depression and fear, and that could relate to why our character hasn't slept for a while. Now that's enough analysis of the dialogue. Let's get to the actual gameplay. If you listen to the background music of the game, sometimes you'll hear strange noises, like footsteps or a door swinging, and they relate to nothing that's actually happening. So this could be a result from our character suffering from hallucinations, which, like I said before, is a symptom of schizophrenia. You could also see the monsters as hallucinations, but if you want to think of it as another explanation, you could say that our character fainted after the dialogue, and this is actually in his head while he's unconscious. If you don't believe me yet that our character is suffering from schizophrenia, let's look at the most important clue to this theory: the game thumbnail of James. Why, you might ask? Well, if you look closely at his thumbnail, you might see numbers and letters in the background. If we lighten the image up and make it easier to see, we can see that it's a repeating sequence of numbers and letters. In a game that has hidden codes that need decoding to get through the actual game, this makes sense that this means something, and it's not just random letters and numbers. When I first saw it, it reminded me of hash code or MD5 hash code. I put it into a decryption site, and guess what pops up? Schizophrenia. Boom! Evidence! With such a realistic dialogue, I can't believe that this game, all the events that happened in the gameplay, that is actually real life for our character. I have to go with the idea that our character actually fainted after the dialogue, and this is all in his head. You may sound disappointed that all of the gameplay may not actually really happen, and it's all in his head, but I see this as a good thing. Knowing that this is in his head, we can try to pick apart what is going on in this dude's head. What is going on? And I think the fact that we're in a maze kind of represents that he feels lost, he feels trapped, and he wants to escape, like he said in the dialogue before. You may think that the monsters were just added for spooky environment or just to have some challenges in the game, but I don't believe that is so. I believe that all the monsters represent the fears that are inside our character's head. Like I said before, I also think our character suffers from scopophobia and kleptophobia. Scopophobia is the fear of people staring at you. So basically, this is Stan. Because Stan, what he does is he's the master of stares. That's literally part of his name. He stares at you. So I think that is hinting to the fact that he is scared of people looking at him and just staring at him. That was also shown in the dialogue that people stare at me. So I think that's a big hint right there. Also, in regards to the name of the game and the monster Fraud who steals your identity, I also think our character suffers from kleptophobia, which is the fear of your identity being stolen. Because what does Fraud do? Well, he kills you, and when he kills you, he literally becomes you. He steals your identity. If our character is suffering from scopophobia and kleptophobia and schizophrenia, that is a lot of things he has under his belt. With Ralph and Alice, I mean, Ralph is a mass murderer, and I think most people are scared of mass murderers and getting killed, so that is easily associated with just the fear of dying. But Alice is a little bit different. She seems to be a zombie-like character, so maybe he's scared of zombies. Who knows? You could find any phobia out there of anything, so I won't get too crazy with my analysis. But I think the other two fears were quite understandable. Now, with the boss of the game, it is kind of hard to understand really what it is. It seems to be a monster with armor, and we never get to see what's inside the armor. And the boss shoots lasers out of his chest and also throws bombs later in the fight. So there's not much to go off of, but really, I just think this is his self-conscious. I think he is fighting himself. And when you win, when you beat the boss, you don't just get teleported to the start of the game. You don't, like, go back to the door of the boss. It doesn't teleport you anywhere in the game. What does it do? It kicks you out. You get kicked out of the server, and you have to rejoin or play a new game. And so, what does this mean? Normally, games don't do that. So, is this there for a meaning? Well, I'll go as far as to say that I think that's you escaping. You could even say that it's you coming out of unconsciousness. I think when you win the fight against yourself. One monster I haven't talked about yet is the monster Identity, also known as the Jailer. Identity is a very interesting monster. He has a very rare spawn chance, and he also doesn't look anything like a monster. He's a normal man in a suit that kind of looks like James, and he just kind of walks at you. When he spawns, special music will play in the background so you know when he comes into the game and when he's near. So when he touches you though, it doesn't kill you, it teleports you. This is really where it gets weird. So it teleports you to a jail cell, and you and Identity are in the jail cells. Then guards will come in, shoot Identity, so the one that teleported you there, he gets shot, and then you get shot. And that's where it kind of ends. So, what does this mean? Who is Identity, and what does he mean to our character? What does Identity Fraud 2, because how does that relate to Identity Fraud 1? Well, that's what I'm going to be explaining in my next theory. So guys, if you want to see that, don't forget to subscribe, like this video so others will see it. I hope you liked this. It was really fun getting into this game, trying to dig all of the facts I could find about schizophrenia and how it related. YouTube, stay fast, stay speedy, and I'll see you in my next video.